Right now, this video is reaching you through a cable lying on the bottom of the ocean, a cable about as wide as a garden hose. Not a satellite. Not the cloud. Over 99% of everything that crosses an ocean moves through those cables in the dark. For most of their journey, they're no thicker than your wrist, lying naked on the seafloor, under pressure that would crush a submarine. And if they all went dark tonight, international banking, markets, and most of the internet would start failing within seconds. The entire modern world hangs on a few hundred hoses in the dark. To understand how, we have to peel it back, one layer at a time. Start with how absurd this idea once was. In 1858, engineers tried to lay a telegraph wire across the entire Atlantic. Over 3,000 kilometers of iron and copper, spooled off the back of ships at sea. Plenty of serious people called it impossible. And then, astonishingly, it worked. Queen Victoria sent the first official message to the American president. It was 98 words long. It took about 16 hours to send. 2 minutes for a single character. And it was still the fastest message ever to cross an ocean. Faster than the fastest ship, by more than a week. Then, after about 3 weeks, the cable went silent. An engineer had pushed too much voltage through it, trying to make it faster, and cooked it. The impossible thing had worked just long enough to prove it wasn't impossible. So they built better. In 1866, a new cable crossed for good. 8 words a minute now, between continents. Then generation after generation. 1956, the first transatlantic telephone cable, 36 calls at once. 1988, the first fiber optic cable across the Atlantic, 40,000 calls, through strands of glass. And today? A single modern cable can carry over 200 terabits every second. From 16 hours for 100 words. To entire libraries, every heartbeat, same ocean, same idea. What changed is what's inside. So what is this thing, actually? Strip away the plastic and steel, and at the center you find the entire point. Strands of glass, each about the width of a human hair. That's what your data rides on. Pulses of light, in glass thinner than fishing line, carrying everything. Everything else is protection. In the deep ocean, the finished cable is barely thicker than a garden hose. Down there, almost nothing can touch it. Near the shore, it's a different story. Layers of steel armor wrap it against anchors and fishing gear, until it's closer to the thickness of a soda can. Close to land, ships tow a giant steel plow across the seabed. It cuts a trench, feeds the cable in, and lets the ocean floor bury it. A meter or more of seabed on top. But in the open ocean, they don't bury it at all. The cable just lies there, on the bottom, in crushing dark. It's engineered to survive depths approaching 8,000 meters, around 800 times the pressure at the surface. A thread of glass, built to last 25 years, in a place we can barely visit. There are now more than 600 of these systems, active or planned. Over 1.5 million kilometers. Enough to wrap the equator nearly 40 times. But a thread of glass has a problem. And it's not the water. It's the distance. Even in the purest glass ever made, light fades. After about 100 kilometers, the signal is a whisper. The Atlantic is 6,000. So how does a whisper cross an ocean? The answer sits on the seabed, every 70 to 100 kilometers, along every major cable on Earth. A repeater, a sealed metal cylinder that catches the fading light and makes it bright again. And the way it does that is quietly beautiful. Inside is a stretch of fiber laced with a rare earth element called erbium. A small laser pumps energy into that glass, and when your dimming signal passes through, the erbium hands its energy over to the light itself. The signal comes out brighter than it went in. Nothing is converted. Nothing is decoded. It is light, amplifying light. But lasers on the seafloor need electricity, and there are no power outlets in the middle of the Atlantic. So the cable powers itself. Wrapped around the fibers is a sheath of copper, and from stations on shore, thousands of volts are fed down the line. A steady current, threading through every repeater across the entire ocean. And the circuit is completed by the sea itself. The water is the return wire. Put it together, and a single strand carries your data across an ocean, boosted every 100 kilometers, powered from beaches thousands of kilometers apart. Which leaves the last layer, the one nobody likes to think about. All of this can break. Somewhere in the world, cables break about 200 times a year. And the culprit usually isn't dramatic. Around 2/3 of all faults come down to us. Fishing gear and ship anchors dragged across the seabed. Not sharks, by the way. The shark story went viral years ago, and it's a myth. In one 8-year industry study, fish bites caused exactly 0 cable faults. The ocean's monsters are anchors, not animal. Sometimes it's the planet itself. In 2022, a volcanic eruption near Tonga sent underwater avalanches racing down the seafloor. It destroyed some 200 kilometers of cable and cut an entire nation off from the world for weeks. And when a cable breaks, the fix is astonishingly old-fashioned. A ship sails out and drags a hooked anchor along the bottom to snag it. The crew hauls it up from the deep and splices the glass by hand, on deck. Then lowers it back. 1 to 3 weeks of careful, patient, human work. Here's the number that should stop you. The fleet that lays and repairs the world's cables is about 60 ships. Fewer than 20 dedicated to repair. So the next time someone says the internet is in the cloud, remember what it really is. Glass the width of a hair. Light. Boosted every 100 kilometers. Powered by beaches an ocean apart. Mended by hand, from a ship's deck. And more than a century and a half after the first impossible wire, nothing fundamental has changed. We still connect the world the same way. By laying a line across the bottom of the sea. Every wonder has layers. Dig deeper.